Hello, and thank you for joining me. In this presentation, I will be discussing the project I undertook with the International Coalition of Girls' Schools Global Action Research Collaborative. Enjoyment, not attainment. How does a blended learning approach encourage a positive mindset towards mathematics in Year 10 girls? My name is Varathanathan, and I am the Head of Co-Curricular and Outreach at Blackheath High School in London. In the next 15 minutes, I will summarise my action research project and my findings. Blackheath High School is an independent girls' school in Greenwich. It is one of 24 independent day schools as a part of the Girls' Day Schools Trust, GDST. We pride ourselves on encouraging girls to be brave and as a school where girls boldly go. Our girls are generally from financially privileged backgrounds. The student population is representative of the diversity of South East London, thus bringing numerous cultures, languages, and experiences. I started my teaching journey with the Institute of Mathematics, where I was awarded the Maths Teacher Training Scholarship. This means that I am part of the growing community of math scholars aiming to promote mathematics. Undertaking this research project has been a great honour. Thank you to the ICGS for this wonderful opportunity. Today we'll briefly discuss the importance of blended learning as supported by literature and post-pandemic reports. Then we will talk about what action research is and why it fits for this inquiry, as well as the context of where the action research occurred. Blackheath High School. Then, before going to the findings, we will outline the data collection and analysis methods. Following talking about the four main findings, we will conclude by talking about what further research is needed to implement blended learning as a whole school approach. So why is there a need for blended learning? A report published post-pandemic found that students yearned for teachers to know them more as human beings, to trust them more, and to give them more control over themselves and their learning. Students would like the opportunity to use their amazing tech skills more. A 2013 study by Zaka, which looked at implementing blended learning in a secondary school in New Zealand, found that blended learning has the capacity to lend way to meet the needs of students outlined in the post-pandemic report. First and foremost, what is blended learning? Majumdar defines blended learning as a hybrid of online learning and face-to-face instruction using a variety of learning tools. My action research focused on encouraging positive attitudes towards mathematics. Quite often, the attitudes to maths is the biggest obstruction when it comes to student enjoyment in mathematics lessons. The ability to solve problems mathematically has been linked directly to preparing students for tackling issues in real life. As educators, it is our duty not only to make sure that our students have the best start in life, but to make sure that they enjoy the journey too. I wondered if I could utilise students' experience of blended learning during COVID lockdowns to develop a positive attitude towards mathematics. Mertler describes action research as research undertaken by teachers to improve or change their classroom practice. As I wanted to change the style of teaching and learning, action research was the most appropriate methodology. Thus, my research question: how does a blended learning approach encourage a positive mindset towards mathematics in Year 10 girls? The action. Action research is a cyclical process, and today I am going to share with you one cycle of action research. It starts with planning, then acting, developing and reflecting, and then doing so again in another cycle. This project took place over a total of 48 lessons. Each lesson was 50 minutes in length. These lessons occurred from September to December 2022. The 7 students who participated in my action research project were in my Year 10 Mathematics General Certificate of Secondary Education GCSE exam class. I focused on implementing Stage 5 of Bosch's blended learning theoretical framework. This meant that blended learning involved classroom instruction that includes some online resources with limited or no requirement for students to be online. There were 3 elements to the action stage: class notes, homework tasks, and classwork. I used the Explain Everything app on my iPad to deliver lessons. Explain Everything is an online digital whiteboard app. The advantage of using the app is that I would record my lessons, save them as a document or videos, and share with students. Most importantly, as a teacher, it enabled for more interactions with students as I delivered the lesson, as I was able to move around the classroom freely with my iPad. Class notes were posted onto Firefly so that students could access the content outside of lessons. Firefly is an online platform founded by 2 GCSE students in 2005 with the goal of enabling teachers and fellow students to have access to school information online and out of the classroom. However, Firefly was limited in terms of storage capacity, and I had to remove old class notes in order to add new notes. Therefore, I switched to using Microsoft Teams. This enables for me to post the class notes and the classwork for the lesson without having to remove old content. This also facilitated for more environmentally friendly lessons, as I no longer needed to print any worksheets for class notes nor classwork. During the teaching part of the lesson, I also noticed that some students enjoyed more passive learning, especially note-taking during lessons. I adapted this part of the lesson so that students would watch as I worked through the examples as a class, and then notes were posted onto Microsoft Teams for them to access as they completed the classwork in lessons. Homework tasks were initially designed so that students could consolidate their in-class work and use their iPads to create a summary of the topic using a software of their choice. Some students voiced in lessons that they enjoyed the freedom to be creative using their iPads. However, some students expressed that they did not feel comfortable standing in front of the class and wanted to be excused from sharing their work with the class. Therefore, I adapted the homework tasks to be more individual tasks and did not depend on students sharing what they had produced. I used a different online platform, Hegarty Maths. This involves students watching a video on what we had learnt that week, then completing an online quiz checking their understanding. Classwork was initially completed by students in their exercise books and using the iPad to access the worksheet I had posted on Microsoft Teams. As a result of students enjoying using their iPad for viewing class notes and accessing homework, we trialled students downloading the work booklets and saving them on the iPads for them to complete. Students could write on their iPads on the work booklet and save this in a designated maths folder on their iPads. All teaching and learning is now delivered using our iPads, and lessons are almost completely paper-free. To identify whether blended learning developed positive attitudes towards mathematics in my students, I collected data using various tools. The purpose of collecting data via various media was to enable me to polyangulate the data, thus increasing the trustworthiness of my data. The following data collection tools were used in my research. Students completed a pre, mid, and post research questionnaire. This enables for students to reflect on the blended learning process and how their attitudes to mathematics and blended learning may have changed. Questionnaires at the 3 stages enabled for the emergence of patterns and trends more easily. Photos and video recordings were somewhat useful. It was initially helpful when we trialled the summary topics exercise. However, this form of data collection wasn't beneficial to student progress or attitude to maths, so I discontinued this when the style of homework changed. I used Cornell note-taking during the lessons to take field notes. The 2-column method provided a strong structure to my field notes and naturally encouraged the recording of main points and the use of telegraphic sentences. It enabled me to jot down initial thoughts during the lesson, then come back and reflect on these soon after the lesson. All participants then completed an audio-recorded one-to-one interview. The interviews enabled for deeper insight into the initial feedback from the online questionnaire. I found that the data from the one-to-one interviews enabled for students to be much more open and honest about blended learning. After analysing my data, I identified 4 emerging themes that helped me to answer my research question as to how blended learning can be used to encourage a positive mindset towards mathematics in Year 10 girls. Blended learning increases ease of use and motivation. Students enjoyed the freedom of being able to rewatch the videos if they were not sure about what they were doing. The easy access meant that students could open their homework on their iPad anytime, anywhere to watch the videos and answer the quiz at the end. This had a further positive impact where students felt motivated to keep trying the quizzes multiple times to try and improve their score. Participant B said they really like watching Hegarty videos and having the quizzes is fun because I can do them again. This theme supports findings from the post-pandemic report where students wanted teachers to trust them more and give them control over their learning. Students' independence, ownership and confidence over their work was visible from their increased level of participation in classroom discussions as found in my Cornell notes. Blended learning is environmentally friendly and creates organisation. The environmental factors were a bonus for the class, and there was a widespread sense of pride that they were actively contributing to less paper usage. Unintentionally, this had a knock-on effect in class as well, where we heavily reduced the number of worksheets being printed and have resorted to uploading worksheets onto Microsoft Teams. Students became more organised and created a maths folder on their iPads to store their work for them to access later. Students still shared an appreciation for the traditional pen and paper approach for certain topics, such as sketching graphs. Participant D commented, using Hegarty Maths was good for revision, but for something like graphs, you want to use paper. Participant F said, environmentally stick to blended learning, but for some work, it would be better to have big paper. Due to the ability level of the class, I was keen to incorporate more classroom discussions to consolidate their understanding. The Explain Everything app was used to facilitate classroom discussions where different methods outlined by the students, right or wrong, were written on the board and opened for discussion. Students found this approach much more open and felt comfortable asking each other silly questions. These lessons naturally led to classroom discussions, which the students enjoyed and felt they could see mathematics as more relatable. Participant F commented, in other years, we basically got told what to do, whereas now we're getting more involved and have discussions and we are getting more creative with it. Students emphasised that the style of delivery and teacher approach was equally important. Participant C shared a personal experience. It depends on what teacher you have. Back in Year 6, I had a very rude teacher, and that put me off for a long time. Now I have a much nicer teacher and I'm doing much better in mathematics. Teachers and how supportive they are plays a big role in it. The pursuit of attainment and accompanying stress impede enjoyment. The high expectations students placed on themselves and the inability to see mistakes as room for making progress stood in the way of enjoyment. Some students felt that they could only enjoy mathematics when they're doing well. Participant B said, it's really off-putting when you get it wrong, and you know it's wrong and you don't want to do it anymore. Students were able to recognise that mathematics can be enjoyable if the pressure of attainment could be eliminated. I do worry about my grades and if I won't get things right. If you take away that pressure, maths can be a very enjoyable subject. Initially, I started this research project with the aim of implementing stage 5 of Bosch's theoretical framework. I have successfully been able to develop the level of blended learning to stage 3 of the framework, mostly or fully online, with students meeting daily in the classroom. I believe that this is a huge achievement as an educator because I have enabled students to become more independent and use the technological advancements of the 21st century to acquire knowledge beyond what only a classroom can provide. Due to the nature of teaching, lesson delivery is constantly changing to be responsive to the needs of each class. Therefore, it is difficult to say which specific element of the action research was the most successful in encouraging positive mindsets. So what further research is needed? The actual research I conducted was with a small low attainment class of 7 students. It would be interesting to see if a whole school approach to blended learning would make it more accessible for students of all abilities, and what additional factors need to be considered when implementing this. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, please do contact me.